Hey guys, Asher coming at you today with another Raid Shadow Legends champion guide. Welcome to the video, guys. Hope it finds you all doing well. Today, we have Zorander says, I like this new channel. I like that we'll be able to find champions here on one channel. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That is exactly the reason that we're doing this channel here about a month and a half in now or so, give or take. So we have Elhain. We're trying to get to all the starting champions. We've done Galek, we've done Kale already here on the channel. Let's go ahead and cover Elhain. Quite a few requests for this starting champion. There's new players starting Raid Shadow Legends every single day who want to know who is the best starter in Raid Shadow Legends. And the goal of this video isn't just to speak on that, right? It's to really speak about which starter champion out of the four can last you the longest in this game and where are all their different strengths and weaknesses. So I haven't done a guide on Aethel yet here, an updated guide on this channel, but she's amazing. I really, really love Aethel. I love that she has an extra turn mechanic in her kit. That's what makes her special to me. Obviously, Dark Kale has the poisons, right? So definitely, for me, there's really no argument for the early game who's going to help you out the most, and it's going to be Kale, especially early clan boss, dragon, etc. Personally, I am not a massive fan of Galek. I think I said that in his guide video that we did here on the channel. He does some decent damage. He does bring decreased defense, but it's not dependable enough to be an AoE decreased defense really on any of your teams. Even when you have Galek, you're going to want to go out and get your hands on War Maiden in the early game, whether you're a spender or whether you're a free-to-play player, okay? But Elhain is different than all the other starters, in my opinion, because A, she does shine in a few areas, and B, I think she's the most out of the four end game viable. Does that mean you should pick her as your starting champion? Certainly not. So I guess I'm going to say this gear, I would still go with Kale as the best starter, right? But A, if you just want to have some fun, and it's not going to like ruin your account or anything if you go with any of the starters, right? So if you just want to have some fun and go with a great nuker, you can go with Elhain. B, if you want to invest in a champion in the early game that you think will last you till the end of this game, no reason not to go, forgive the double negative, with Elhain. And C, if you're already in the mid game or you're already in, Doom Tower hard content, I think Elhain is a great champion to take a look at. As a matter of fact, if you look at the best teams in the world on a bunch of the secret rooms in Doom Tower hard, I want to say there's like 4 of them. There's attack-only rares, there's rare-only rares, there's magic affinity-only rares, and there's another one too. But either way, it can be tricky, especially like the attack-only rare secret room. I mean, she's an attack-based champion who has 2 AoE attacks, right? This one's really, really solid, good multipliers on the A2, and then a ×2 AoE attack on her A3. She's a great control champion, and she's nice and speedy at 107 base speed. If we look at her base stats really quickly here, 14,000, 1,200 on the attack, 837, and 107, and then we compare that with all the other starting champions, right? All 4 of them, or all 3 others, I should say. You'll see that she actually has more HP and more speed than the other starters. So her base stats are quite a bit better, which is nice, especially that speed there. So today I'm going to show you Elhain in a stun set build. However, I do want to be clear that this is not the only way to build this champion, and I will talk about how I would build her in the early game in case you're a brand new player just looking to see, okay, how should I build her? With she's the first champion I have, Ash. I don't care about all this end game baloney. All right. So let's talk about we talked briefly about what she does, but a quick deeper look here. On her A1, she attacks 1 enemy, places an extra hit if the attack is critical. On the A2, Lightning Arrow, she's attacking 1 enemy and then all enemies. Has an extra 15% chance to inflict a critical hit, and then places an increased crit rate on this champion for 3 turns if the target is killed. So me, I just ignore that last sentence. It's a nice to have, but I'm still going to make sure I build her with a 100% crit rate no matter what. On the A3, Valley of Death, again, attacks all enemies 2 times. It's nice because you don't have to book it out. It's already going to be on a 3-turn cooldown. It makes her a viable campaign farmer to have 2 AoE attacks, although you will be able to replace her with uncommons like Saurus or rares like Fellhound fairly early into the game. So even though she's a good starting campaign farmer, I would say you'd probably be looking to replace her. Same thing goes with all the starting champions, somewhere in the mid game. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you how I have her built today. We're going to take a run in one of those Doom Tower hard rooms, and we're also going to take a run in Ice Golem as well. So first, before we do any of that, let's pull her up, Ash. Let's pull her up. So Elhain, you can see some of the champions we'll be using with her today. I'm going to use Elhain and Dark Elhain in the same team. I should put Supreme Elhain in there and we can have the whole trifecta. But alas, Elhain in a stun set. You guys know me. I love a good control rare champion. So how are we using her in the end game? We're using her to lock down all the waves vis-a-vis her stuns, right? And because of that, we're going to pick up Fearsome Presence as a tier 6 mastery. You guys probably already saw this one coming because it's a build that I use with a lot of rare champions because my account is in the end game. However, make no mistake about it, this type of build, this type of mastery with a sunset can actually help you guys out tremendously just in dungeon progression or in Doom Tower floor progression, because she's going to be able to lock down very, very well with the damage. She'll still be bringing damage in all those stuns. Of course, Fearsome Presence does give us a 5% extra shot at landing stun from an artifact set. Keep in mind, there's no reason to build Elhain with accuracy, and stuns from artifact sets do not require accuracy to land. So it doesn't matter if the opponent has 10,000 resistance. As long as they're susceptible to stun, ergo not a lot of the bosses in this game, it's still going to land. So we have a 23%, as we always say, guys. Hopefully I'm drilling it in your head if you're a returning viewer here enough, but Harvest Despair is a must-have. If you're ever going to go for Fearsome Presence with somebody in a stun set, you'd be, forgive me, but a fool not to go with Harvest Despair as well, because we had a 60% chance of placing a leech while we're placing that stun, right? Which is incredible because we're going to be healing up our entire team throughout the battle with those extra leeches. So it's really nice to have that. We came down the offensive side. We just picked up a little bit of crit rate, a little bit of crit damage, and just kind of came down the left-hand side of the offense tree as well. So of course, the stun set, we have on the banner, we have HP. So our HP, we want survivability. We say this about all the starting champions, but again, for new players out there, I think a common early mistake, two most common early game mistakes, is building a nuker like Elhain or even the control variant like this one, building her without enough HP or defense, and she just dies, right? We don't need to scale attack that much, man. We'll get a lot of damage. So number two, and that kind of ties into it, is building a nuker or starting champion or anybody who you want damage from without 100% crit rate. The only exception would be if you're getting all the damage from like poisons or debuffs or something like that. Like Kale, you can build them with high accuracy, still get a lot of damage against clan boss. But really for any AoE nuker like Elhain, you need 100% crit rate, okay? So anyway, I digress. HP on the banner, we have crit damage on the amulet, we have attack on the ring. If she was dying, I would replace this ring with an HP ring probably, or defense. We went speed on the boots, we went HP percentage on the chest, and we went crit rate on the gauntlets. I do have a couple lifesteal pieces, and I will take this time to make a recommendation that if you do go with Elhain as your starting champion, I think there's nothing wrong at all with just putting on a 4-piece lifesteal artifacts that you get anyway in the beginning of this game. That's how I would equip her if I didn't have stun sets or if I'm just starting out the game. I would put lifesteal gear on her. She's going to be able to heal herself up because in the beginning of the game, odds are, well, you don't have a reviver, do you? You don't have a reviver, so keeping her alive is going to be, again, paramount on this champion. For blessings, we went with Phantom Touch, a chance of inflicting extra damage. On her A1, she already has an extra hit if it's critical, so with Phantom Touch, you can actually use her in Fire Knight. Get those 3 hits off the shield because Phantom Touch will count as a hit when it procs. Okay, so back to the sets here. So we have crit rate, as I said, guys. You could build her all-out nuker if you want her just as a campaign farmer. You could put crit damage on the gauntlets, look for crit rate as substats on the rest of the artifacts, and go with attack percentage on the boots. If you want her as an arena nuker, I would use probably speed on the boots, just for arena. Speed on the boots, attack percentage on the chest, and crit damage if you can on the gauntlets, or crit rate is fine too. Just make sure if you're going to go crit damage, you find the crit rate on the substats to get it to 100%. All right, I think that's a pretty good, rundown of how we have her built in today's video. However, I did mention something earlier, and that is, okay, so where is she? Why is she the best? Why is she not the worst? Let's put it that way, right? If we look at her multipliers here, you can even see on hellhades.com, it says Elhain is thought of as the worst of the 4 starting champions, mainly because she does not offer any strong debuffs against enemies. But what she does offer is great damage multipliers, 4 attack on the single target, then 2.2 on the AoE, and then a 2.2 on a double hitter on the A3. thus, for me, making her the best raw nuker out of all the starting champions. 2 strong AoE hits. In a control stat, she's great. She's the best for control, in my opinion, right? In stun. And she's great as an arena nuker. So as an arena nuker in the early game, I think that Elhain is going to be the best of the starting champions, again, just because of the 2 strong AoE attacks. So that's where you can use her the best in the early game, or that's why she shines compared to the other starting champions in the early game. And other than that, though, just to be real, just to keep it real with you guys, other than that, I think the other starting champions you can make a case for, especially Aethel and Kayle, in the early game as being more helpful to your account. Again, doesn't mean it's a bad choice to go with Elhain either. All right, so I had a secret room here. What was it, 7 maybe? Yes. High elves only. So I have the... Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm going to try to take some of the OP champions out of here. Let's put my girl. Elhain's going to be our stun damage dealer. So kind of serving 2 purposes on this team because these enemies have a lot of levels, have a lot of HP, and they smack. So we need some control on this team. So we're going to go Elhain as control. We have a reviver in Reliquary Tender. We have a debuffer in Tyrell. We have Skiramis to help with some control. Let's go ahead and fill the team out with Apothecary for some heals. And let's see how we can do here. Challenging secret room, but this is not even anywhere close to the notoriously most difficult secret rooms out there in the game. The attack only, as I mentioned earlier. Let's come in here, land some provokes. We're going to go ahead and start out with her A2 ability. If there is a Spirit Affinity champion like Lysandra here, it's good to go ahead and target them. We come back in, we land 1 stun, okay? Could have been better, could have been worse, right? Luckily, we don't need the stun because we do have the provokes on this first round, thanks to Skiramis, who has an AoE provoke on his A3 ability. So between Skiramis and between Elhain, the job of them is going to be control everybody while we slowly but methodically go ahead and take everybody down as well. So again, here comes her A3 attack. That's a 2-time hitter. Again, we land a couple more stuns there, and you can already see the value she's adding because these dudes, monsters, champions, opponents, they hit freaking hard. They hit hard. All right, you know what? Let's go ahead and put it on auto for a moment here. I will, again, just in case there's new players watching, because it is a starting champion guide here, I will show you how to A1 cycle, and now it's a great time to go ahead and do so. So when there's only a couple mobs left, I should have done it right before Skiramis used that move, but when there's only a couple mobs left on the enemy team, you take it off auto. If you're having challenges like beating a level of Doom Tower or in a particular dungeon, or anywhere, even I still use this at times, right? Is at the end, you're just going to use the A1 abilities. You're just going to spam the attack button, right? That way you can come into the next round nice and fresh, and everybody has all their more powerful skills off cooldown, right? Now, it wasn't the case here because I didn't get to it in time for Skiramis to have his A3, and we don't land any stuns. So some bad luck here to start things off, but I think that we will be okay. Going against a few Eleanorils here. Arbiter. Ethos is the one that we want to keep our eye on to make sure that he is nice and CC'd because that dude can smack. So it actually works out pretty nicely that we come back around to a second turn provoke there on Skiramis. Going to come in with the A3. Valley of Death, just doing more damage. And here we can do a little spot heal on Reliquary Tender because she is our nuker. We don't want her to go down, and we have some nice stuns and provokes on the enemy team, so things are pretty safe right now. So check this out. We get provoke, provoke, stun, stun. I think it's almost time already to A1 cycle into the next wave. Let's just see how things play out here. Yeah, I'm going to keep that A3 of Mr. Apothecary on cooldown. We'll target Arbiter next just to make sure that she doesn't go sneaking around and reviving everybody. And then we'll be good to go for Eleanorils. So there she goes. And we're going to be nice and fresh again on the third wave, right? So, again, this team is fairly accessible. I guess Skiramis would be the most difficult to get champion here. Maybe Tyrell as well, just depending. But really, it's just another provoke champion, right? Another control champion added to the mix. Is always helpful. So let's go ahead and target this time. One of the ethoses first. We do land a couple stuns on Elhain again. Invaluable what she's bringing to the table in terms of those stuns. Going to go ahead and pick on Bellinor here in the corner. And then cycle through. I think her AoE attack is up right now. That's a hard-hitting A2 from Skoramis too, guys. Wow. All right, A3, what are we doing here? Not too bad, not too bad. Keep in mind that is a double hitter. Tough to see those shots go by when they go fast like that. But here we go, guys. The battle is over against these level 220 mobs. Not too shabby. And again, putting out 379,000 damage. So her and Skoramis definitely carrying the damage and the control for the team. So they're bringing a lot to the table there, right? Provokes, stuns, and all the damage as well. Let's go ahead and show you that Ice Golem run as well. We have a different team put together here for Ice Golem 20. Ice Golem 20 is same thing with all the starting champions and Apothecary, who should be like one of the top priorities for people to go ahead and try to pull in the early game. You just, like, this is what I do on my free-to-play account. I don't have Elhain built, otherwise I would have shown it there, guys. But what I try to do is just go and farm. It's nice and easy to assemble, especially after you get Syl the Drakes, to assemble an all-magic affinity team for dungeons. So I just try to pick on the spirit affinity floors, you know? And I'll go with an all-magic or a magic-heavy team such as this one. We have Dagger on the team. She's going to be our debuffer because our main debuffer would be War Maiden, but again, we're going against Spirit Affinity, so we're going to use Dagger. She has a decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, but it's only a 75% land rate. And then we have Dark Elhain, we have Elhain, we have Apothecary, and we have Syl the Drakes, all Magic Affinity champions. We're not going to A1 cycle here. Nicely done with the stuns here again. And really, this is what I would do in the mid-game, a team like this, just to get better gear, right? Even if you're not farming stage whatever 21 25 Ice Golem hard 10, right? You have to be okay with that, and you have to be okay with kind of the grind of Raid Shadow Legends, to where you do the dungeons that you can win 100% of the time. You farm those until you can get decent gear upgrades, right? Keep value over replacement up and up and up and up. Incremental was the word I was looking for. Incremental artifact upgrades, and then slowly but surely you'll find yourself being able to tackle the next stage or the next stage or the next dungeon stage. So for me, I like to go with groups of affinity. So like on Ice Golem, for example, I would go Ice Golem 20 until I was able to farm Ice Golem 24 against another Spirit Affinity matchup, you know? That's if I was using like the same kind of core of Magic Affinity champions. Of course, every account is different. We always say that here on the channel, but that would be my strategy. So here we go again. The reason we love Dark Elhain, as you can see, and we just did a guide on her on yesterday, I believe, or the day before, is she's just going to, every time someone's frozen by the Ice Golem, she's going to automatically go in there with her A2 ability, Death's Majesty, and it's just a sight to see. She's going to be doing some insane damage compared to everybody else on this team, and she's run in a super, super slow build as well. Dagger is pretty squishy. She has like 700 base defense. As you can see, she went down pretty fast there, but luckily we do have a reviver on the squad in Syl of the Drakes, and we have a spot healer too in Apothecary. So Apothecary is a great aura lead for dungeons. If you don't have him yet, Elhain is a decent aura lead everywhere with HP in all battles. I think most players are going to be starting to use your starting champion as your initial aura lead in most places of the game, right? Because that 10% HP isn't nothing. All right, so again, Ice Golem still hits really, really hard here, but between Syl and Apothecary, able to keep this pretty squishy team alive. All three of our other champions are very squishy, very fragile. But I have them all built very similarly, and maybe with the exception of Dark Elhain, but at least Dagger and Elhain, like I have some HP accessories on them just to make sure they're not dying every single time that big AoE attack comes down from the Ice Golem. So here we go. You can see she's doing a lot of damage here. It seems like she took like 10 turns in a row. And here we go. We're going to have to go ahead and revive here. Luckily, again, we do have a lot of tankage on this team. So if something like that does happen, we're able to recover, right? And that's the importance of having those revivers on your squad. Also, building like a very tanky Reliquary Tender could do the trick there. I ran this team I want to say like 3 or 4 times before the video, and it never got that close at the end. But hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. But that's actually a pretty good use case, right? Or I should say a good scenario that happened in real life. Things got kind of sketchy at the end there. We did have both of our healers / revivers alive, so I don't think it was as close as it might have appeared there. However, I do think it's worth pointing out, hey, maybe we do go in there and subtract a little bit of attack from these champions and add a little bit even more of the HP so they're not wiped out like that. So we have Dark Elhain, 3.1 million damage. Elhain, 936, but more importantly, landing all of those stuns against the boss's minions and, of course, against the waves. And then Dagger with 762k. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this guide of Elhain. Shockingly, there is no lore for any of the starting champions in Raid Shadow Legends. It doesn't make any sense. I guess when the Call of the Arbiter animated series comes to YouTube, we will be able to find out their backstory, but that's going to do it for the video. If you want to see any champion guides here on the channel, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care, guys.